Tick tock, tick tock. I'm looking at the time on my clickety clock, and it's time for the Mafia Minute, where it's all Buffalo Bills all the time. I'm your host, Magnum Mills, here with Jamie G, a card carrying member of the Bills Mafia, to do a little bit of a training camp thing. Thank you for checking out the Mafia Minute presented by Season Gap Fantasy Football. Find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, on the web at seasongapp.ff.com. Same place we are on social media at seasongapp.ff. We try to keep it simple and easy to remember, just like the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please hit the thumb. Do it right before you dive through that table. Jamie G, I know it's only training camp. I mean, how many tables have you gone through? You're buying them at Costco, right? They sell a 25 piece thing, so you get 25 tables at a time. I think that's the optimal way to do it.
Absolutely. I've been breaking probably two a week since training camp started. So I'm geared up. After the draft, I broke a couple. That was a good weekend. So you always break one on 4th of July. So I mean there's good table breaking going on. Haven't lit one on fire yet, but that day is coming. And I will put an elbow through that son of a bitch. And I promise you that. But I'm pumped up. It's been a good off season here. The Bills are quietly floating a little bit under the radar. People are down on them, and that's just how your boy likes it. And I'm encouraged and, like every year, nervous about certain things as camp unwinds, and pretty fired up to talk about a little bit about my Buffalo Bills.
I think that's the perfect place to be, because you should be confident yet nervous, because you don't want to be overconfident, but you don't want to be scared. Bone Crusher taught us that. Let's tee up some Bills on parade, a little bit of the latest Bills news. Jamie G, I think you're going to be loving this. The Bills Mafia has gotten their own meal box at McDonald's. This will be in most of New York State starting August 12th, but not in Long Island and New York City. Y'all are out because you like them Jersey teams. These are limited edition meals, only available while supplies last. In the meal box, you get 2 cheeseburgers, 2 medium fries, and a 20-piece chicken McNugget for $15. Jamie G, I know it's not real buffalo wings or even, boneless nugget whatnots, but is this a fair rendition of a Bills Mafia meal for McDonald's in this day and age? It does seem like a decent value.
It seems decent, especially if you've been drinking Labatt's all day and you gotta get some quick food. Yeah, I'm not mad at this at all. Now the real question is, are you getting a Josh Allen bobblehead? Is there a toy in there, Mills? What's going on?
There is a commemorative box. You do get a box. I do
I'm a
not know
big
about
fan
the
of the old
toy, but
commemorative box.
we all really are. The commemorative box, the commemorative seat, whatever they give out. In Jamie G, what are you kind of looking forward to as we come into the preseason here? Is there anything in particular? We're going to talk about the training camp position battles in a minute here, but just overall, what are you looking for into the preseason? You want to see the starters play? Any certain players you want to see step up? What are you looking for in the preseason?
Generally speaking, I'm both, really all three phases of the game here I think are interesting because offensively, you got a lot of new pieces at the wide receiver core. You got some new pieces on the offensive line. I'm looking forward to seeing how that first unit gels and is it quick enough and can they move the ball up and down the field and score? And that's kind of my gauge. Like, do they make it look easy in the offseason? If so, good sign. If not, maybe cause for concern. And we'll talk more specifics about those positions. But generally speaking, just looking to see how that unit performs. And are they in a rhythm? And this is Joe Brady's first, full off season here. Will we see any more evolution in his offense with this balanced attack with the running game and the passing game with this motto of everyone eats? And that's really been the theme on offense. Defensively, we've got a new coordinator. I'm curious to see if Sean McDermott's going to continue to call the plays or let Bobby Babich call them. My guess is Sean McDermott will call them to start the season. He was, in my opinion, pretty good last year calling plays. I think that's where he really thrives. Excited to see how that unravels. And we got some new pieces both on the front end, the back end, and then a couple of key cogs in the middle coming back from injury. So again, excited to see them fly around and what this defense is going to look like. Are there any new wrinkles? How are they going to handle losing the two key, people on the back end, Poyer and Hyde at safety, having brand new safety play in there? That's kind of a big deal in a McDermott defense. So I think that's worth watching. And then on special teams, obviously we still all have to understand this insane kicking rule that's rolling out. But we've got new people. We lost some key special teamers that we just couldn't afford to pay. And we're going to have to fill the role with some new free agents and some rookies. And excited to see how that gels. I do not want this to be a weakness, both in the specialists, returning the football, but also the coverage. And the down the field, can we get down there and make a play? And then ultimately, where's Tyler Bass at? And is he going to have a bounce back year?
Okay, okay. I see that you are very sad to lose special teams ace Tyler Matakevich, the former Temple alum, Buckus winner. A very good player. I believe went back to the Steelers where he began his career before going to the Bills. Guys made the Pro Bowl a couple times. As far as that first team offense, how many snaps do you want to see Josh Allen play in the preseason? Just kind of round it off 0, 10, 20, 30. How many snaps are you looking for Josh Allen with the first team offense in the preseason?
I think no more than 15. And I think that I say that because I could picture them having kind of an 8 or 9 play drive in one game and then maybe 4 or 5 plays in another. I think one series, maybe two. One series that first game, maybe 2 series that second game. I think that's enough. I want to see that the unit go out there and look like they are ready for live bullets. And if they march down the field and score the first time, get their asses off, put them in hats, and make them the biggest cheerleaders on the planet. We know they will be. That's what I'm hoping to see.
Fair enough. How about the offensive line? The Bills' offensive line last year had a lot of great continuity. It had a lot of the most games started by a unit, very high up in that metric last season. They're obviously going to be incorporating a new center here this year. How many snaps do you need how many reps do you think that new offensive line needs? What are you looking for on the first level there, the big uglies in front of Josh Allen?
Yeah, I think the core is still there, right? With the left tackle, right tackle, with Dion Dock and Spencer Brown, and then you got the rookie last year and Cyborg there, Osiris Torrance at the right guard spot. So I think that core is there. Really, you got your left guard who was fantastic last year, and Connor McGovern moving into center. And then the 6 man off the bench last year, they used in a lot of jumbo packages, and David Edwards looking to compete to win that starting left guard position. This one's really curious to me. To answer your question, I think a lot. All Josh Allen had throughout his career was Mitch Morse at center. So it's kind of a big deal. Now, we saw this a couple years ago with when Mitch Morse left the Chiefs, and that was all Patrick Mahomes had. And then they went out and drafted Creed Humphreys, and he's been fantastic. And there wasn't really a big down there, so I'm hoping that they put in enough work here. But I think enough, man. I think that's why you'll see, them play 1 to 2 to 3 series, particularly that second game.
Okay, so it would make sense that maybe they move kind of Dawkins out early and they like phase him out a little bit, let some of the younger guys get a couple more reps overall.
Yeah.
But I think that really makes sense. In how much are you buying into this narrative of Khair Long kind of having a breakout offseason in his third offseason? Sean McDermott's brought it up here a couple times that he's done well in all phases of the offseason program, and he's really crediting new cornerbacks coach Jamil Adai, who just joined the organization in February, is like really contributing. Is this real, or is this just a team kind of doing the thing where they're pumping a guy up? We've seen the Bills do this before, but real or not, on a scale of 1 to 10, how real is it? 10 being incredibly real, 0 being completely fake.
7. I think it's real, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Part of this was he was a trade candidate at the beginning of the season last year, right up until the trade deadline, because he just wasn't very good. The Bills drafted him in the first round over starting players like Trent McDuffie of the Chiefs and others. And they really had their pick. They wanted that big, physical, can press you type guy. But the issue is he's had an issue going in between the zone coverages that Sean McDermott likes to use, and then mixing in the bump and run man that he likes to use. He's almost better suited at one, not the other. Yeah, there is a new coach in town here. He knows this is his chance. They didn't trade him last year. I think they did the right thing, building up the confidence of the young man and saying, we're going to give you an opportunity and this is what you got to do to earn it. And so far, he's done everything. Reports have been pretty good coming out of camp that he looks good. He's competing. He's clearly, the three behind, Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford, who's been, both those guys have been absolutely outstanding, but he's been good. And no question he's going to play this year. So we're going to need him to be, whether it's injury or just going to different looks, defensively. So I'm going to say a 7, but I'm cautiously optimistic here.
Well, that's why they call it player development and not player deployment, right? It takes time. And you've seen that especially, I think, on the offensive line for the Bills, right? First,
Yeah.
Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa. It takes time for these players to develop. Sometimes in Christian Benford, you can look at a lot of different ways. Maybe even DeMar Hamlin's coming up a little bit safety. We'll talk about that in the position battles. But I think it's fair to say, like, this dude came out of the first round. He was a talented player. Other teams were targeting him. He was eager to learn. I think it was the famous thing, right? Didn't he ask for like a playbook on the plane ride to meet the Bills? So everyone's loving, he's very earnest. He's really into it. So perhaps it's not his fault, right? He's just been doing his best. He hasn't fit in with the scheme. The main thing seems to be that he's been given a clean slate. It's like everyone, you got to compete for your job all over again. And he seems to be taking it to heart. And it would not surprise me at all. Third-year breakout for a cornerback is not incredibly uncommon or anything like that. It takes a while in some of these positions. And that would be huge for the Bills because that would go a long way towards filling that void left by Trey White.
We needed to. He's a first-round pick. They knew about Trey leaving. It put him in a jam. We now have the contract looming with Saul Douglas. This would go a long way in providing some depth, providing some flexibility at the corner position. Not to mention, people get hurt, man. He's got to play. You got to be able to go to him, and even if it's just off the bench, we need him to be better.
Yeah, I mean, next man up, that's kind of what you want to say, about safety. But before we move on, do you have any position on Bobby Babich calling plays or not? It sounds like you think Sean McDermott will start out calling plays for the defense and then eventually give up the play calling duties to Bobby Babich. You think that's the way it's going to play out, or would you prefer that, maybe he gets him in the groove earlier in the season, in the preseason, if that's going to be the way they ultimately go?
Look, it's a big responsibility to be the defensive coordinator of a professional football team. Bobby Babich rose meteorically from position, from assistant to linebacker coach. He's got good lineage. His father's an outstanding defensive coach and linebacker coach. He's relatable to the guys. He's young. He's hip. He's all that. But I just think when push comes to shove, McDermott's going to want to have his input and have him involved, but ultimately call the plays. And I could see that being relinquished at some point this season or maybe next season.
All right, let's move on to the training camp position battles. Obviously, this will somewhat depend on injuries and preseason performance, but starting with the wide receiver position, Jamie G, you think they're keeping 6 wide receivers or 7?
I think they've got a real interesting situation here, and certain players, Tyrell Shavers being one, is forcing their hand from 6 to 7. I think they want to keep that veteran presence in MVS, but the fact of the matter is he had a couple of big drops the last 2 days. He's not performing as well as some of these other guys. I believe that the top 5 are locked in stone, right? Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Curtis Samuel, Matt Collins. Those 4 are set in stone. At 5, if it's MVS, okay. If it's Tyrell Shavers, I may actually be forgetting one there too. But I do think that Chase right now I think that it's probably 6, just because I think they're going to have to have some extra depth on the back half of the defense that they haven't had to deal with, knowing that they had the perennial presence there of Poyer and Hyde. I think they're going to need some more safeties, some more corners than normal this year.
Well, I think every team could always need more players in the secondary, and that's kind of why the linebacker situation gets left out a little bit. Anything you want to say on the linebackers before we move to the other part of the secondary, even though we talked about Alam a little bit? What's up with the linebacker situation? Because it was kind of a pleasant surprise last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, Terrell Bernard absolutely proved me wrong last year. He was awesome. I mean, just incredible week in and week out. I'm so when him and Milano, the first 4.5 weeks of the season, they were, in my opinion, one of the best linebacking duos in the league. They were aggressive, they were nasty, they were making big plays, they were causing turnovers. They were just the Bills' defense was complete. I'm really excited to get these two guys back. Matt Milano keeps getting better every day. It's so great to see him back. Terrell Bernard fully healthy. Really excited about that. I think the most interesting thing, though, Mills, is some of the experience that depth got last year. You know, obviously, we lost our guy who went over to Seattle, got a starting spot. Terrell Dodson, happy for him. But you know, Dorian Williams is a guy going into his, I believe, his third season. They really need him to second or third season, see him step up. They signed Nick Morrow from Philadelphia Eagles, getting some depth there. Some of those guys are banged up; they haven't really saw it, but yeah, they need to really make sure the depth is good because we saw how much it was tested last year.
And unfortunately, well, it depends on what side of the line you're on, but injuries are a huge part of who actually makes it into the playoffs and goes deep. You know, the less games your starters lose to injuries, the more likely you are to move further on. And I think that's unfortunately a decent transition into the safety position where the Bills have been just hit really hard with injuries, right? To the point where it like the will Micah Hyde come back and not retire again is a legitimate question because you've got Taylor Rapp, who seems like he's set as one of the starting safeties, but the other safety way up in the air due to injuries, right? I mean, is Damar Hamlin kind of like technically in the lead maybe for that second safety spot right now?
As of right now, and I think there's a big disappointment in Mike Edwards. They signed him from Kansas City. He was in Tampa Bay. He's been a ball hawk. I think he's got the most interceptions, or he's got a bunch of interceptions at the free safety position. Really was excited about him being able to kind of plug and play as we grow some of these younger players. He's been injured since OTAs. So that's been really disappointing. Got to get him back. And then of course we're all very, very excited. They used a second round pick on Cole Bishop out of Utah. I was not as high on that pick as others. Not mad at it or anything. It makes total sense, but really wanted to see that guy. He's missing valuable time right now. So there's been some problems there. And don't forget last year, Mills, they used Taylor Rapp quite a bit in three safety sets. It'll be interesting to see if they can still do that this year. I don't know if they will or won't, but it's going to depend mostly on the personnel. But right now, it looks like Rapp and Hamlin are 1 and 2. But I believe that second spot is will be up for grabs once some guys get healthy.
Do you think either of the players the Bills have signed in free agency there? I think Crew Jackson, another one there, name's escaping me. Either of those players have a chance to make the final roster, or is it just injury dependent?
It's injury dependent. I think they'll want to keep 4 safeties, and may the best 4 live. But they may be forced with injuries. They don't want to cut some of these guys. They may be forced to kind of keep 5, initially, and then maybe make some moves, a couple weeks in the season, depending on how serious these injuries are.
Yeah, you figure that safeties 3 and 4 have to play pretty big roles in special teams as well, which probably
Absolutely.
works in Damar Hamlin's favor at least a little bit because he has that special teams experience.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's making the team. Yeah.
Any thoughts on Taylor Rapp kind of as the leader back there, right? Because right now, we don't know about Micah Hyde. Jordan Poyer's in Miami. Taylor Rapp is maybe the guy who's going to be calling the plays back there, at least have a big role. You've emphasized the role of the safety in the Sean McDermott defense. You think he's ready for it? I mean, it's not bad, right? I mean, he looked pretty good last year.
Well last year, and I like how they used him, bringing him in certain situations, and then he fill in. We had injuries last year, right? I mean, Hyde got hurt, Poyer was hurt at times. He needed to play. I thought he did a good job and built up a lot of chemistry with McDermott to where McDermott had a lot of trust. They went ahead and gave him a 3-year deal really early. They knew they were going to utilize him. I think that's why they signed him last year. Hey, come in, be a part of this thing, play well. There's probably going to be some openings here. And so I think he is, but I think this defense is going to have to look a little bit different, just given I just want to be able to hide certain coverages as well as Poyer and Hyde did. They could disguise with the best safeties in the league, and that was a big part of what we did and mixing things up. I'm curious to see how that's going to shake out as we head into the preseason.
Yeah, it helped a lot because if I remember correctly, Micah Hyde was originally drafted as a corner by the Packers, and he had those man
Poyer.
coverage skills. With no, Micah
No,
Hyde was drafted. Micah
I
Hyde
think
was
Poyer
drafted.
might have been drafted as a corner too,
No,
actually.
Jordan Poyer was drafted by the Eagles. Yes, as a corner safety hybrid, but I believe Hyde was definitely drafted as a corner by
Corner to Green Bay.
the Packers, and they might have eventually played with him at safety, but it was really there where he was unleashed, but he still brought those man coverage skills to covering players, especially in the slot, which is kind of crucial when you get into that nickel defense, having different players be able to drop down to cover the slot on either side. Moving over to running back, your boy Ty Johnson has been a little bit banged up, which has led to increased opportunities for the rookie Ray Davis out of Kentucky, I believe. Not necessarily Harlan County, but I like to say Kentucky. Jamie G, how do you feel about the race for the backup running back for the Bills? Will it even matter? Is it pretty much just going to be a 1-2-3 with a bit of a split no matter what happens? Or could Ray Davis carve out a more significant role if Ty Johnson continues to miss time?
Absolutely, he could. And, look, it's James Cook's job, and he proved he could be a back that they use and use a lot. But I think when this offense was at its best, they had a 1-2 punch and sometimes even a third running back coming in. And that change of pace, I think, is critical. I cannot wait. This is quietly one of the positions that I'm most excited about. People are like, Jamie G. Esquire the fifth. Why? You got James Cook there. Let him cook. Yes. But we know Joe Brady. We saw it last year. This is going to be an RBBC to some extent. If they run the ball 25 times a game, which would be a lot for the Bills, Josh Allen's getting 5 of them. James Cook's getting 12. Someone else is getting the remainder, right? So I do think that this is going to be an important situation. I'm really excited to see Ray Davis and also really excited to see Frank Gore Jr.
Who is? I mean, he's got Frank Gore in his name, so he's already off to a good start. And
Yes, he
if he
is.
has even half of Frank Gore's longevity, work ethic, talent, he'll be a worthy son. I think that's about it, JBG. Anything you want to add? Anything on the defensive line? Maybe you've had a couple additions there. How do you think the rotation is going to play out? What do you got on the defensive line?
Really excited about it. I mean, obviously, the big news there is Von Miller looks to be like Von Miller. He's been very impressive. Said best he's felt in 2 years. I think maybe it took him some time to get healthy. That's the message, and we're going to really need it. So if he can come back and be a dynamic, people forget before he tore his ACL, he had 8 sacks in 11 games. 10 and a half really, and he was having a very good year his first year as the Bills before he tore his ACL. And then last year he came back and obviously it was a shell of his former self. He looks to be back. The burst is there. The bend is there.
Let
That
me
would
ask you
go a
this real
long way.
quick before you move on. Von Miller, let's say he plays 45% of snaps and has 8.5 sacks. Is that a reasonable? Are you good with that? Is that decent enough? As a
I think
situational
so.
pass rusher?
As a 35-year-old pass rusher that can close, yeah. If those sacks are meaningful, absolutely. Because the reality is that's what we got him here for. He took a reduced salary. I think with his current salary, you need to be 10 plus. But before he took the reduction, with this reduction, if he gives us 8.5, I think that's a really successful year. Coming back off that ACL.
Right, and that's one
Outside
of
of
those things where you get into more of the efficiency snaps. Like as long as he's rushing the passer, even if he doesn't get there, the knockdowns and stuff like that. As
oh
long as
yeah,
he's efficient, I think use him correctly, and hopefully, he's healthier this year. The defense has a better plan for him. How about the rest of the defensive line?
I'm excited to see AJ Epinesa kind of get more work. This is a guy who certainly earned it. He took a little bit of a hometown discount, but only did 2 years. I'm excited to see him get more work and see him. He made a lot of splash plays on the field last year. I'm looking for consistency out of him, not just the splash and disappear for half a game. I want to see him consistently making plays. I think he can do it. Greg Rousseau, fifth-year option there. I'm looking for him to have a monster year as well. He had a big year last year. I think he builds on that. And then some of the key pieces, right? I was thrilled they brought back Daquan Jones. I think Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones are one of the best kind of quiet, sneaky, under the radar interior defensive linemen in the league. That combination particularly, and then they got some depth to rotate in there. Lost some of the usual suspects that have been there for a long time, but brought in some new faces. Excited about that rotation. Sean McDermott basically has 2 starting front fours, and that means there's 8 players that are going to play a lot, and he's going to go to them. Sometimes it's every other series. So like we really need that second line to be good. I'm looking forward to some of these new faces and seeing how they blend.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to Ed Oliver because he reminds me a bit of Fletcher Cox when he first came to the Eagles. He was kind of regarded as an undersized, interior defensive lineman. And eventually, over the years, he just refined his skill set. He got stronger. He gained a little bit of weight. And that's kind of the career path of Ed Oliver, right? He started out a little bit of as a disappointment as a first round pick, and he just gradually built himself up and built himself up. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him take another step forward this year.
And he took a big one last year. I mean, he got paid, and he proved it last year. I mean, after getting paid, that's what I love. Because I remember the Bills with Marcel Darius. He had a huge season in his contract year, got paid, and then disappeared.
Oh,
And
this is the opposite of that. You
this is the
have now
opposite
Ed Alvar on an underpriced contract,
for
especially
sure.
with the way the cap is expected to rise. That's actually one of the, that's why I have faith in the Bills. It's a little bit of a gap year in that they've had to reset some of their salary cap obligations, but they've done it in a smart way in that the money they owe going forward, they basically are on the proper side of the value scale. You know what I mean? Like Ed Oliver, right now, that contract looks good.
Yeah.
Even that most of the extensions they have on the Josh Allen contract looks awesome right now. It's just a matter how big the ultimate extension is going to be, that kind of thing. But I think they've done a really good job from the front office standpoint. And even though it sucks, it is a little bit of a reset year. We've seen Kansas City do this. We've seen Baltimore do this. We've seen the Rams do this. This is what teams who are ultimately very competitive have won the Super Bowl have done. So you kind of have to deal with it, right? Like you take big habits this day and age. It's just cost of doing business.
And look, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row with basically one weapon and a running back, and Travis Kelce and the running back, and having people step up and make plays here and there, and a good defense. You're telling me the Bills can't do something similar with Dalton Kincaid, who looks to be the ultimate easy button? He is quietly putting together an unbelievable camp. I think he's going to be the number one option in this offense, in an offense that's going to feature a lot of people and spreading the ball around. I think he's going to get his touches, man. He looks absolutely awesome.
What's weird is you reference the easy button, and I can't remember if that's Office Max or Staples, but I understand the concept of it. So I don't know if it's a half-assed marketing ploy, but it kind of works on a certain level. And what kind of works on a certain level is us giving our Bills bet, because we cannot guarantee that we win all of the time, but we will win some of the time. And in fact, 50% of the time, it works half of the time. And we guarantee you that at least 25% of the time that is happening. Previously on our Bills bets, I have Keon Coleman over 4.5 receiving touchdowns on the season in the regular season. Straight up, that's plus 100. So bet 100 to win 100. Jamie G has Josh Allen over 3,700.5 passing yards, minus 110. So you have to bet $110 to win 100. Jamie G, I'll start us off here with my Bills bet. I have Dalton Kincaid over 750 regular season receiving yards, minus 120. So you have to bet $120 to win 100. But barring injury, I feel this is legitimately easy money. Take this while you can get it. I got the number from the DraftKings Sportsbook. Jamie G, do you like that? And what do you have for us?
I absolutely love it. That is easy money. I, I think he could eclipse 1,000. I mean, I really do. I mean, he was.
Yes, I would look into the alternate receiving yardage totals if you get a better price. But for a minus 120, they're kind of offering that as a parlay teaser. Like they're trying to get your front in the front door. Like, oh yeah, throw 6 of these in there. You don't even need to throw 6 of them in there. Just easy money. What do you have for us?
Like Frankie Blue Eyes, baby. I'm gonna do it my way. Mills, I love this one. I'm going with team special here. I am taking the Buffalo Bills to score one or more touchdown in every regular season game. So that's 17 games. They get in the end zone at least once every game. That's plus 100 odds. I love it. 100 buckaroos going on right now to take home 200. Let's do it. Go Bills.
And that makes sense, right? Because the Bills aren't a team that's going to quit. Even at the very end of the game, they're going to try to get in the end zone, even if it's a backup offense. All they have to do is score one touchdown, avoid that 6-3, 9-6. I think you can do that unless you're a working chap, and unfortunately, you get kind of caught up in the 96. But that's how it works this day and age. Time gets extended.
Great,
But
crazy
this
stat here, Mills, is they're the only team in the NFL that hasn't lost a game by more than 6 points in the last 4 years. It's kind of crazy.
almost spooky, if you would say. I mean, this is the Mafia Minute. Time kind of expands and contracts. We're not sure how it happens, but we do appreciate you checking it out. I'm Magnum Mills with Jamie G. Again, the Mafia Minute is presented by Season Gap Fantasy Football. Find us wherever you get pods, on the YouTube, on social media at Season Gap FF. We appreciate you not forgetting those flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. As Jamie G is about to tell you, we're going to be back to do some preseason and whatnot. And we are definitely going to be here during the regular season. But most importantly, he is going to come out of the pit just bleeding new stadium energy and tell you why checking out the Mafia Minute during the season is going to be very beneficial to you as a card-carrying member of Bills Mafia.
Listen up, Bills Mafia. If you're looking for a spot where you can talk Bills, everything going on, you got wagers, you got the inside scoop, you got your favorite buddies. You ever go to like a Bills bar and just everyone becomes your best friend? That's what this is on the Mafia Minute. You don't want to miss us talking about our favorite team, the best team in the world, in the history of sports, the Buffalo Bills, week in and week out. Rain, shine, snow, you name it, we'll be here. Go Bills.